Hello, and welcome to In Conversation with Ozan Palsey. As you join us today, we encourage you to reflect on the land that you are on, who the traditional keepers of the land are, what the treaty relationship is, or if it is unceded territory. We are located on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee. The territory is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Belt Covenant, and it's home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We are grateful to work on this land. My name is Joanna Vicente, and I'm the Executive Director and co-head here at TIFF. I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to our lead sponsor, Bell, and our major sponsors, RBC, L'Oréal Paris, and Visa, as well as to our major supporters, the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, and the City of Toronto for their continued support. Also, a huge thank you to our Sharer Journey donors, whose support goes a very long way to help us ensure that more films led by women can be created, seen, and celebrated. Today's event is presented by TIFF's Sharer Journey initiative. To elevate women in the film industry, TIFF launched Sharer Journey in 2017 as a 5-year commitment to champion women behind and in front of the camera, with a focus on mentorship, skills development, and other opportunities for emerging women creators. You can show your support and stay up to date on all that we're doing at shatterjourney.org. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by our latest ambassador for Sharer Journey, the incomparable Ozan Palsey. Throughout her career, Ozan has experienced many firsts, with her 1983 feature debut, Sugarcane Alley, which is now available to screen on digital TIFF Bell Lightbox for our audiences in Canada. She became the first Black director to win a Silver Lion Award at the Venice Film Festival and a Cesar Award. She was also the first female director to win a Cesar. Following Sugarcane Alley, she went on to direct Donald Sutherland, Marlon Brando, and Susan Sarandon in the apartheid drama A Dry White Season, the first major studio film helmed by a Black filmmaker. She is an incredible filmmaker, activist, and mentor. So I am thrilled to welcome Ozan Palsey. Let's start at the beginning and talk about your artistic drive and inspirations. I've heard that you knew you wanted to become a filmmaker since you were 10 years old. Tell us a little bit about that and what kinds of films you were watching.
Yes, I was 10 years old when I said, I want to do this. I didn't have a name for it because, I was young. But I knew that I wanted to do this. People would say, okay, you want to be an actress? I said, no, I want to make that, the film, Why? Because I always loved movies. And my sister loved to go to dance or to read. But I was in love with films. And but I realized that there were no Black characters in most of the movies that I will go and see. And I started to question my parents, why that? Why that? And they wouldn't be able to answer. Of course, they couldn't. And one day, my mother gave me the book, Joseph Zobel's book, La Rue Cazenègre, Sugarcane Alley. And she asked me to read that book and to read the whole thing and tell her the story because she wanted to get me out of her hair in the kitchen. I was questioning too much. And then she didn't realize that by imposing me this kind of thing, she would create in my body, my young body and my young mind, a kind of hurricane, a volcanic, thing, because it was a story about us, about Black people and people from Martinique in the sugarcane plantation with a grandmother. I mean, old people, young people that I knew. And I said, oh, this is what I want to do. And I was praying every day, for God to make me go faster and faster to be able to do that. Yes, that's a story of my love for Sugarcane Alley and for movies. Yeah.
No, no, it's amazing because highlighting stories about Black people and rooted in Black culture has always been one of your driving forces. And that has always been the force, and it's very important to you. What did you see missing in the films that you were watching? What was those perspectives that you wanted to bring that you didn't feel were represented?
First of all, they were American films, and in those, when there was, there were one character, a male or a female character in the stories, there would be, degrading part. And they were ugly, they were not nice people, and they were always a bad person. And I couldn't stand that. It was very shocking to me. And because I couldn't recognize those people that they are showing on screen in my life, in my daily life. And I say, wait a minute, what is that? Why do they need to be like that? And what was even more shocking to me is what my friend, they will be laughing, when they will insult that person or beat that person, punish that person, they will be enjoying it as if they were saying, okay, it's him, it's he, not me. They will not identify themselves to that person, but they will identify themselves to the heroes, the white heroes, and they will cheer. They will love the white hero. And I think that I have to say, I will not say that I think, because that would be a false modesty, but I will say I was more matured than most of my little friends, and so I used to, maybe because I was already an artist and I didn't know that, but I used to question all the time about everything, to the extent that my mother at home, they will call me Mademoiselle Pourquoi. That means they will call me Miss Why, because if I ask a question and you said to me, you give me an answer that I like, I would say, oh, good. But if you would say no, or give me an answer that I didn't like, I will also immediately I would say, but why? So I was Miss Why. So Miss Why will question, and why this? And so in that novel, Sugarcane Alley, I saw people, it was a cultural shock for me. For the first time in my life, my young life, I had a book talking about Black folks, and with such dignity, love, and people was, they were hard workers. They are being, exploited by the white man in the sugarcane, field. Their life was miserable, but they had such dignity, and they loved life. They were very alive alive. So, and the children, they were just like my little friends. And there was also old people like old Medus, the African man in Sugarcane Alley. And I said, but oh my God, we are here in the book, and nobody never, and never put that on screen, And I was naive because I was thinking, oh my God, I'm so lucky. Maybe nobody knows about that book. And I'm lucky to get that book. So, and my mother wanted not to punish me, but to make me stay, calm, and stop questioning me about the cooking and that. Sit down and read that book. And she didn't know what she did, that I would change her own life, and that would change my entire life and so many other people's life too.
Amazing. So you went to Paris in your early 20s. You were studying film and literature. You brought the book with you, and you adapted as a screenplay. Talk to us about that process.
I had to make a lot of research, because the books, talks about a period like, late after slavery, but late 30s. And Zobel, was talking about his grandmother. So at that time, so I had to make some more research for the language, but everything that was in the book was so real, and it was things that I knew. Maybe they wouldn't call an object the same way, because with the language evaluates. So I had to find how today they were calling, what they call today, that object in that past, how it was being called, or expressions. Older people, they had funny expression in that time, and so I had to investigate to see, the funny sentence that Martine she's saying, when she speaks, and that came from my research, for example. So and the book was very rich, and I had to make a choice. Like, for example, you had the grandmother and you had the mother, and the child was the grandmother, Martine, is the one who raised that baby, because her daughter, Martine's daughter, who was the only child that she had, her name was Delia. Delia, when she got pregnant, as soon as the baby, was born, she had to leave the baby with her mother and go to Fort-de-France, the capital, 30 kilometers away, to work at white people's house, what people that they call the béquet in our language, in Creole. And she was, the baby, that little boy, afterwards, the little boy, he would see his mother once a year. That means January 2nd, because January 1st, they needed her to cook, to do everything for their reception, because they have their family, people coming. And the next day, that was the only day off that she will have to go and see her mother and her child. So for Delia, for the boy, Delia, her mother, was a stranger. And Zobel in the book explained that, even when he went to Fort-de-France to study, when they said, okay, the name of your principal parents, you will say Martine, and the address, you will say Rue Casneg, in the city, while he was in Fort-de-France. So I had to make a big decision. So I made a decision to put everything in the adaptation with the grandmother. And I excluded the mother. But the writer agreed with me, because he knew that was the truth. It was in the book. So I didn't betray him. So because you develop something dramatically with a character, people will love that old woman, and all of a sudden, when the child has to go to the city to study, then we forget about the grandmother and we go with we discover that woman Delia, and no, that wouldn't be fair to the audience and to Martine, the character herself. So that's why I had to make the decision, and Zobel went along with me on that.
That's great. So we have a clip from Sugarcane Alley, which is an outstanding debut feature, one of my favorites, and it's a scene with the old Meduse and the boy, and they're having a conversation. So if we could show the clip, and then Ozan, would love to have you talk about the scene.
Mais ça n'a pas changé, mon fils. Les béquets gardent toutes les terres du pays. La loi interdit de nous fouetter, mais ne les oblige pas à nous payer comme il faut.
Si tu partais en Afrique, monsieur Meduse, tu sais, j'irai avec toi.
Et là, si je moins. Meduse n'ira jamais en Afrique. Meduse n'a plus personne en Afrique. C'est quand je serai mort, que mon vieux corps sera là-dessous, que j'irai en Afrique. Mais je ne pourrai pas t'amener. retournerons tous un jour en Afrique. T'en fais pas.
This is such a powerful scene. Ozan, do you want to talk to us a little bit about this scene and also if you remember shooting it and talk to us?
Yeah. I love, Medus. I love Martin. I love Jose. I love them dearly. But Medu was my favorite ever. I mean, I never say that to anybody. That's the first time that I will officially say that. You know that I composed a blues, my first piece of music, because I'm a composer as well. But I was very young at that time when I did Sugarcane Alley. I was already writing song. I composed blues to Medus, and that was my first piece of music because I was so moved by that character, and I used to call him the Black Christ. So in that scene, I wrote the scene. It's not in the book. I wrote it based on what Zobel, anything that I will put in the adaptation, Zobel gave it to me with his writing and the characters themselves, And it was very important for me to show that Medus was for that boy, the dad that he never knew. He was his spiritual dad, his educator. And he was the man who will teach him about his history in the movie, about nature, about everything like that, about life. And that's why I made Medus create that little statuette, that's a symbolism of Africa, to give him that. Because when Medus will die, and the boy will have to move to Fort-de-France, the capital, to go to school. The first thing that he will take from the wall where he had hanged, that statuette, was the statuette itself, to put in his bag and to go to Fort-de-France. So it's a very important scene for all Black people, for the history, because in a few dialogues, you understand that he was a slave, he was born on the plantation, and that he will die, and spiritually, he will go back to Africa. And the boy said, because he loved that old man so much, he said, if you go to Africa, I'll go with you. And he said, no, I won't be able to take you with me because my spirit will go there, but my body will stay in that cursed land,
Yeah, beautiful scene. What was it like filming in Martinique and working with so many non-professional actors?
Well, I love, I have a lot of respect for professional actors, but I also love sometimes when I can find really what I want. I don't know how to consider that in English, but maybe you will tell me. When you say the girl faces, I mean, like we say in French, people with specific faces, when I can find that among my professional actors. So I'll go and I love to say, joking, I'll go to do my shopping in supermarket or in the countryside, and that way, like for example, the kids, they never saw a camera in their life. When I did Sugarcane Alley, and they never acted before. And also, I have in Sugarcane Alley very few professional actors. Medu, of course, was one. Mm-hmm. He was one of the most famous African actors in the world. And there was also Martine, the grandmother. She was very known in France. She was in 152 movies, but in very bad, not flattering, characters. She was just like a concierge or whatever. Mm-hmm. She was a nounou or whatever. I mean, yeah. And so it was a pleasure for me to work with them because I trained them, but I have my method training kids in all my movies, and also my method working with non-professional actors. And I bring them to the level of professional actors, so you can tell that they are not professional actors.
Amazing. So the film was a huge success and won 4 awards at the Venice Film Festival and 20 international awards. You also got the Cesar, which is like the French Oscar. What was there like as a first-time director, and what happened after?
You know, I first of all, when the movie was selected by Venice Film Festival, my godfather, one of my godfather, Truffaut, one of my mentors, we were talking all the time, and I told him, Francois, the movie has been selected, and he was in hospital because he was sick, as you know, so I couldn't see him, but we were writing each other, and he said to me, and I told him, I know that we won't have any awards, because why I was saying that because I was so used to not see us on screen, not see us being recognized, see us being denied everything that we wanted to do. Don't go there, you can't, you are black or you are whatever. So it's impossible. And so I told him, we won't have anything. But for me, that's okay. Because for me, being in that very prestigious, selection with Godard, René, and others, that's the price. Going to Venice, oh my God, this is great, so that's the hours for us. And Truffaut said, that's the best attitude to have, because with a festival, you never know, it's a competition. And then when I went to Venice and I heard the palmarès, my God, but before the palmarès, actually, seeing all those people in the theater when they did the public screening, people standing at the end and cheering, screaming. And then when somebody from the organizing group told us, hey, you know what? Get up, leave your seat and run, because they will put you naked. When people hear they love the movie, they grab you, they kiss you, and that that nearly happened, because by the time that we were on the upper floor, by the time we reached downstairs, they blocked us and they were grabbing the kids. They wanted to kiss him. The poor boy, he was clinging to me like this, to my skirt, and he was so scared. And I said, that's okay. People wanted to kiss him, to touch me and hug, and oh my God, it was amazing. And then we had the palmarès with all those awards. Oh my God. But I was so happy. I was so happy seeing, not for me, but seeing Martine, that all Black woman walking on stage for the first time ever in that film festival. To see a Black person walking on screen, Martine, getting an award, Best Actress. Wow. I said, okay, thank you, Lord. That's great. I can die now. I'm fine. I made my movie, and we are being recognized, in a prestigious filmmaker, a prestigious festival as Venice. Yes, it was great. And after that, of course, I was so tired, so exhausted by the whole fight already to make the movie, and then the shooting, that I wanted to rest, I wanted to sleep, and I wanted people to leave me alone, but I couldn't. Yeah.
So you decided what a best time to go to Hollywood. So tell us about your second feature film, A Dry White Season. That was a major Hollywood studio film. It was the first Hollywood film directed by a Black woman. This is back in 1988, 89.
Yeah.
So how did you become part of the project?
Actually, I would say that I did not become part of the project, because in fact, I initiated the project. And that happened thanks to Robert Redford, because he's the one who handpicked me to come to Sundance Lab at that time. And he wanted me to be there because he loved Sugarcane Alley. And then, when you go to Sundance, Redford, all the filmmakers and the mentors, they are there, they talk with you and they try to give you their best advice and help you. And then, when I came, I was selected with a project as you need to be. And my project was a book, A Dry White Season by Andre Brink. And we used to sit, on the ground, Redford and I, and to talk. He will ask me, okay, how do you feel? Do you like it here? And so what will be your next move? And I said to him, I'm going home. Yes. And I said, but, by the way, I have some letters that the studio sent me, Lucy Fisher from Warner Brothers. So I would like, to show that to you because, and it was 5 letters that she wrote me because I wouldn't say yes. She wanted me to come to Hollywood to work with them because she loves Sugar Cane Alley as well. And the movie was very successful in the States. And Redford says, this is fantastic. So you are going? And I said, no. I can't because I was scared. Be honestly, I was scared because I felt that Hollywood, I would not fit in, because it's a different way of working. Like it's not the same way in Europe. It's different. So, and he said, no. I want you to go because you need to test the water before saying no. You never know. You might like it. And I said, well, and he asked his Sandy, one of his assistants, to call Lucy Fisher and tell her, we are sending you Ozan, and that's how he put me in the plane. I arrived in Hollywood, and Lucy Fisher just welcomed me so nicely. She knew that I didn't want to come to Hollywood, so she made it very, very nice, very easy for me and pleasant. And I told her that's what I want to do. She offered me Malcolm X and a bunch of other projects, and among them there was just only one black project was Malcolm X at the time. And she said, okay, you refuse everything, but what about that one? And I said, no, because Malcolm X should be done by an African American, not by me. But I have a book. I didn't come like that because she was disappointed that I would say no to everything. She didn't know the book. And she kept me in town for a week while she would be reading the book. And then she fell in love with the story. And she said, Euzhan, okay, we are going to do it. And we had a meeting with her. She said, you are so special. I want you to have a special producer to produce your film. And I met with 8 female producers over a week. And I picked Paula Weinstein to be my producer. So it was great. They never do that usually in Hollywood, but I felt that was so cool, and that's how, we developed the story with Warner Brothers. And when Cry Freedom came out, the head of Warner Brothers at that time decided that 2 movies about South Africa, that's enough. No, one is enough. So they put my project in a drawer. And then we were able, Paula and myself, to take it to MGM, Allen Jr., who loved the story, loved my pitch, what I wanted to do. And he said, okay, so let's do it. And I was very happy to work with them, really. Yeah.
That's great. So you brought Marlon Brando out of retirement back to the cinema screens as an anti-apartheid lawyer alongside Donald Sutherland and Susan Sarandon. What was it like working with these, big Hollywood actors?
Well, it was something wonderful, but so people used to ask me, "Oh, you might have been very impressed." So I said, "No, because my relationship to stars are very simple. That means that, I love the actor's work. I wanted badly Donald Sutherland, to be the lead. But I was at Sundance with our darling, our loved Paul Newman. And he was on my set when I was shooting, my little sequence at Sundance. And he was dying to portray Ben Detroit. But in my heart of hearts, I was in love with Donald Sutherland's work. That's not mean that Newman wouldn't do a good job, but I felt like such a movie, this kind of character needed somebody that people would really, really relate to, you know, and it would be easier to do that, to identify themselves, to help them to identify themselves. Somebody like Donald Sutherland, who, you know, is playing an Afrikaner, than Paul Newman was so handsome. He was great, fantastic, but he was also Hollywood, you know. And I was also worried that the press will put the emphasis on, oh, Newman, a movie with Newman, instead of talking about the subject matter. But it was great working with Brando because, you know, I call him because MGM Vice President Jay Cantor was his dear friend and his brother, spiritual brother. And I told him that I want Brando to come back to be the lawyer in the movies that we will do together. And he said, okay, I'll call the man and we'll see what he say. And then he put me on the phone with Brando. And Brando, you know, I told him why I wanted him. And because he was an activist and he was somebody, he was the right person for me to do that. And I said, I want you to look at my film, Sugarcane Alley, because I cannot talk about myself. I don't know how to talk about myself, and I don't like to talk about myself. But my work speaks for me. So he saw Sugarcane Alley, and he was in tears at the end of the movie. And he said, oh, well, okay. And I told him, okay, read the script, and, you know, we'll talk. So that's how it started. And we spend a lot of time together talking about the characters and you know, going through changes with him and being but I didn't know when I would say to him that, okay, you can, you know, reshape certain thing. I learned later that was the last thing to tell Marlon because we write the entire script, you know, all his characters. Anyway, but it was great. It was a great experience with him, with Donald Sutherland. Susan Sarandon was a goddess, as usual, you know, on her film. She was great. And she charged the studio only 25% of her fee because she wanted to be there. She wanted to support the work. And I'm saying that because people need to know this kind of thing. Is that good for our stars today, the young ones, to know that people, they do that to support a filmmaker, a young filmmaker. You know, it's important that they know that. Yeah.
So I know that you...
Sorry. And Michael Gambon too, you know, he was a star, a British, you know, and he was fantastic. And also, usually people, they forget about the Black South African actors. And we have John Caney, who was in Black Panther as well. All these Black South African actors, it's important to talk about them too, and to salute them. Because I made that movie under apartheid. People, they need to know that. It was at the height of apartheid, where the South African police were killing people like flies. I went undercover to look for my Black actors and bring them, you know, by a device that we won't talk about here because it's so long. But and MGM, thank you to MGM, because they told me if those guys exist, because that was one of something that was not negotiable for me, you know, to change my Black South African actors, to train them, you know, with Black American actors. Even I love them and they are great, but I said no, for that movie I want the real people, to give them a voice. That's why I was making the movie, and also that's why I decided to take the risk of my life, to put my life on the line, you know, to make that film. And I said, if they kill me, but I want to do that, and I did. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very powerful. And I was going to ask you about the South African actors and the work that you did undercover to really understand the political system. So you've also worked in both fiction and with documentary filmmaking. So how have the two influenced each other?
I always been, in love with good documentaries, because when you have a documentary, it's what we call Jean Rouch, that very famous ethnologue, filmmaker, ethnologue. He used to call documentaries like that cinéma vérité, and that means a film that tells the truth. That it's a film, but you give people, a voice to talk about their situation. I always been in love with great documentaries, and I knew that it will be a struggle to get the people who had the money and the power to greenlight my feature films, because I was Black, female, and young. So I decided to do what I love also, documentaries. And you learn so much about people. And it was also for me as a filmmaker and a Black filmmaker, somebody who came from that part of the world, somebody who was very hurt, by not seeing her people portrayed on screen, not seeing or seeing them misrepresented, So it was so important for me, to be able to do documentaries that will allow me to talk about my people, to give the real people a voice to talk about, to tell their stories. So I had to do that and have no regret, because we lost so many of our great people. We lost so many of our stories by being, occulté. I don't know how you say that. Cut away from the big screen, the small screen, denied. You see that nobody knows about our stories, and even ourselves. I discovered my story, thanks to my grandmother, my parents. And then when I went to Paris to study, so I made sure that I would dig and study, anthropology and things like that to discover who I was. And thanks to the first person, Aimé Cesar, our very famous poet, philosopher, and historian, well-known Aimé Cesar. God bless his heart. So he's the one who really taught me about taught us about our history, Africa, the motherland. Because, they taught us that our ancestors, they were Gaulois. I don't know from what miracle, but they were Gaulois and we were Black. So using documentaries was for me a tool, to do what I wouldn't be able to do with feature films on big screen.
Yeah, I remember seeing your documentary about it. So you were one of the few Black filmmakers working in the 80s and fought to get the stories that you wanted to see on screen made. Now there's a new generation of Black women directing and producing, like Ava DuVernay, Shonda Rhimes, Regina King, Dee Rees. Can you share what it feels like to see these women working and telling stories now?
First of all, I was very proud of them. I was very happy, and not one ounce of jealousy. That's not me, because I have been mentoring so many young people for years, So I was happy, and because I didn't know them, and when they made their first film, and I said, bravo, this is great, because I felt, and I used to say that everything I fought for, everything I struggle, I scream and I cry for. And I said cry is not just like a word, really cry. I cry, when I couldn't, you wouldn't let me do for all these stupid reasons. Now, they are doing it. The way have been paved for them, and I'm glad, and I'm very moved when when they talk about my work, and they show that they are very comment on dit reconnaissante reconnaissant. That means they don't forget, you know.
Yeah.
They are very grateful, and they recognize that there are somebody who came before and paved the way, you know. And they said that. They say, well, if we exist, if we rise, it's thanks to you. If we exist, it's because we are standing on the shoulders of the giant, you. And I said, okay, thank you, but the work that you do is already, you know, a way to say thank you to all my struggle, you know. And so keep doing. And you know, I love them and I wish them well and the best, you know. But also, there's something I used to tell them too. I said the best way to say thank you to me, you know, is to do what I did for others, to be mentors, to train other female and other Black filmmakers, young filmmakers, you know, to help them to get there. Because, and don't do what I suffer a lot, that lack of solidarity, you know, in our community, you know, most of the time. And that was very hard, you know, because people could just like, a star could say, okay, I understand what you're doing. This is important for us. So let me help you out. And you want me to be in your movie? Okay, I'll do it. They don't need to do it for free, but just like Susan Sarandon did, you know, so, and I missed that a great deal when I was struggling and I felt so lonely, you know, but after that, you know, things changed a bit. And I had a nice relationship with some actors, and they will be more supportive, yes. Yeah.
That's good. So I have a question here from the audience. Bernard Oliver on Twitter. What was the most fun part of directing a Dry White Season? That film is so heavy and it touches on serious subject matter, but what was the most enjoyable moment about filming it?
Oh my God. Well, that scene with 1,200 extras. 1,200 extras, you know, at the crossroad like this, I shot it like that, you know, chanting, you know, that was, every time I see that scene and I realize that I'm not the only one, because when I watch the movie with the audience, my God, people, they just like, you know, yeah, that one of moment that I was happy and to enjoyable time. Yes, when I did that. And also the training of the kids, how to teach them how to die when they got a bullet, you know, how to fall, you know, put everything on them, you know, give them the elements in their hand, you know, and I said, when I'll say, okay, then you push and you do the gesture at the same time, you synchronize it, and to see those babies do that, just like, it was amazing. I enjoyed that too, you know. And but there are of course other moments with there are other moments with at the courtroom, you know, with Donald Sutherland and Brando as well, and that was fantastic. I love that. I love, you know, that part too. But most of the great moments were with the people, the South African people, really. Yeah, because they were not actors, and they knew that they were doing that for their life, you know. Yeah, it's very important.
That's great. So, Ozan, to finish, I think we have another question from the audience, but I think it's a nice way to finish the conversation since we're at time. So it's at Exoberna on Twitter, and this person asks, what is some significant advice over the span of your career that has stuck with you?
So that means that somebody gave me an advice.
That somebody gave you so advice that, or you can also just talk about what would be your advice to up and coming filmmakers.
I'll do both quickly. First of all, the most significant advice was not when I was a filmmaker. It started before that, because I was very lucky to have a female. A father was a feminist, the first feminist that I had. So I met because I was young, and all believe in me and said, okay, you want to be a filmmaker, you will be the first one, but okay, I'll pay your study, I'll push you, I'll help you. And I had a grandmother, Camille, who used to tell me, if somebody put a fence in front of you and tell you, you are too young, you are black, you are female, you are to this or that, you cannot do that, you cannot go there, you cannot do this. They put that fence in front of you, just jump over it and fly. You see? So that was a very important advice. And my mother would say, never take no for an answer. Okay? So, that's what I did. And believe in yourself. Don't afraid. And the advice that we will give is, when you know that you are right, you try everything that you could do, that was in your power. And you cannot succeed to do what you want to do. Life is tough. People are very tough. But don't get discouraged. You have to move on. Put what you wanted to do in a drawer, like I did with one of my hard project. It's right here. My woman, Bessie Coleman, the Black Flag. 19 years she has been living with me, and I'm gonna make her movie. Okay, so when you know that you want to do something, put in, and that it's not the right time, the right people, put it in a drawer and keep moving, and so be yourself. Don't try to imitate people or listen to what people are telling you. Listen to the inner voice that you have in you, your passion. If you want to make that job, you want to be a filmmaker, you need to know that it is, a very hard work. You need to have good legs, because you will work a lot. They will make you work a lot and work, okay? So you need to take a lot of vitamins, but you need to have a strong will and believe in yourself, and don't be afraid to ask. Be daring. Be daring. They kick you out from the door, come back through the window and say, yes, I'm here. Yes. That's the advice that I will give, because that's exactly what I did myself. I did, and and also do what my grandmother applies, that advice that my grandmother used to give me. You have 10 minutes to complain, Miss Y. Okay, Mademoiselle Pourquoi? 10 minutes to complain, okay? But I give you 5 minutes or 2 minutes just to take action. Tell me how you would change it, what you would like to do to change it. That's very, very important.
Wise words. Thank you so much, Ozan.
Thank you to you.